Thank you. Good morning, guys. Just wanted to start the session by touching on the fact in the average person in the UAE, we are consumed or we are exposed to 1,300 ads per day. It is the 12th most saturated market in the world. We are bombarded with video, creative, audio, effectively all day long. So the session today is just to look a little bit into how we can explore rising above the noise, focusing on the channels curation, the creative storytelling, and audience cohesion, just to make sure that we're given the right strategy and the right application of all the data we have available. So first, why omnichannel? Effectively, just because it works better. When it comes to omnichannel, 3 is the magic number. It's been proven that omnichannel campaigns are 3 times more effective. This is a study by On-Device Research, who are an independent kind of brand uplift study panelist. You can see this across intent, awareness, consideration, all of the key KPIs. It shows that omnichannel is tangibly more effective than single channel activations. When it comes to the number of channels, 5 isn't even magic a number. So when you look at the channels themselves, we can actually increase effectability and ROI by 35%. A lot of this comes when we're leveraging TV, obviously the biggest screen in the household, but by being supplementary to this, we can actually really drive change when it comes to not only ROI, but broader metrics around branding as well. The bottom tab you can see is ROI worldwide, so 35% increase. The middle is 65%, so the UK, so my market. There's a tangible lift here, which, above that 50% mark, but the core one is branding. We can see over 200% lift, which is studied by Kantar Miller Brown. And this is the core metric we're all focusing on, right? To get a 200% lift by branding is phenomenal returns. This is also reflected in the studies we've seen at Bliss. So the 4 and 5 numbers there reflect the channels amplified for each campaign. You can see here that when it comes to the transaction volume, the average value per user, there's a real spike when it comes to actual sales when that volume of channels is increased. All of this is backdated by first-party data from the client as well. From a channel perspective, when it comes to awareness and consideration, the black tab here reflects that all campaigns with digital out of home spike the highest for performance. So you can really see that channel selection is key when it comes to performance and brand metrics. So omnichannel works, but why? One of the reasons is, anyone that's booked TV in the room, you will get a saturation point when it comes to reach and frequency, where it's just diminishing gains. You are paying more for really negligible gains. When you leverage other channels, we can start to complement each other, move into audio, video, display, and effectively get a more effective cost of reach and frequency curve. When we look at being complementary within channels, you can see the video spike here. So not only looking at TV, BVOD, SVOD, CTV as well, there is an 8% lift in ROI when it comes to purely just looking in between that video cross-section. And also the numbers reflect this. So 72% and 78% of consumers in the UK and the US are more inclined to purchase a product when they've seen the creatives follow them across screens. So when there's cohesive storytelling. And more cost-effective inputs lead to better outcomes and better ROI. Fairly self-explanatory. If we get a more effective cost for reach and frequency, this then leads to more brand effects, cheaper media, more effective outcomes, and in turn, happier clients for us all. So the keys to success sit around creative, channels, and cohesion. If we look at creative, the main reason this is so important is the fact that we're so obsessed with data, we've forgotten about the storytelling elements. If we look, there's an amazing quote from Dave Trott that digital advertising has been preoccupied with placement, presumption, and percentages, has forgotten about memory. We're so focused on where people sit in a funnel, how are they performing from an ROI perspective, that we kind of forget the actual experience for them as an individual. And this is really reflected in the numbers that are coming back from consumers. 89% of people can't even remember the ads they've seen. From the small percentage that can, 7% have a negative perception and 4% are only positive. So it's on us as marketers in the room to really change this. I was in Cannes earlier in the year and there was a study on how many ads are no better than a boring picture of cows in a field. And this was an independent study that was released. And it was 53%, which is tragic. So the thing is, all of our creatives, they're either leveraging AI too much, as was mentioned in the previous panel, or they're just not really cutting through. There's no resonance there. So it's on us to make sure that we have really relevant creatives that follow the consumer around. Some of the ways we can do this is amplifying all of our creative suites for different channels. So when it comes to digital out of home, making sure this is localized, so you're 6 minutes away to a store, There's countdowns, there's QR codes. We're actually ensuring that we're giving tangible value to that consumer. When we look at CTV capabilities, we can actually add in more kind of layers, so background design, featured restaurants, countdowns, sales, making sure we're not just repurposing any old asset and chucking that into a different channel, genuinely making it tailored and a more kind of value add for the consumer. And again, for CTV, we can have these dynamic countdowns, interactive elements that show when a TV program is going to be on, QR codes that are included, or more embedded content, actually looking at including product carousels on the left-hand side, QR codes, sales. All of this can then be tracked to actually deem genuine ROI off the back of a campaign. Rich media capabilities are another fundamental, but moving ahead from just additional layers of in-display, how can we use AI? How can we use VR, microphone-enabled editions? And of course, it wouldn't be a deck today without AI, so a chatbot style element, where if you're planning a holiday, you can talk, you can say what you'd like to go on. All of this makes it more actual relevant and more, a comprehensive experience for the user. I think one of the key points is we get too focused on, am I mid-funnel, lower funnel, where's my consumer? They don't really think like this. It's following their day-to-day life. We need to be malleable to how they live their lives rather than trying to pigeonhole them into a funnel for us. So this is reflected in how we should really sell that creative element, making sure there is cohesion when it comes to the creative, and also that the publishing suite is really comprehensive. The thing is, each element and each channel has their own benefit. They are all complementary. When we just look at display, when we just look at audio, for a consumer, it should all be together. Digital out of home is really key for awareness. Of course, CTV, that big screen element in the household, always in for awareness and engagement. For consideration, audio and video, very much sitting that kind of mid to lower funnel. And then the lower funnel, of course, display being the cheaper medium. All of these are reflected naturally in the cascade in price downwards, but they all work together to perform better outcomes. And one of the key bits at the minute when it really comes to omnichannel is moving away, yes, from that single channel approach, but also not falling into the trap of buying multi-channel. If you buy across so many different platforms, it is fragmented. Everyone has different measurability, different kind of methodologies when it comes to building out audience sets. So although you might think you're buying all these channels individually and it's cohesive, it's still probably sporadic in terms of one audience set via cookies, one's via maids. There's not that continuity, which, from our perspective, if you buy via one channel, omni-channel, you'll follow that audience set across every touch point. And this is very much the approach we've taken at Bliss. So we'll build out audience sets utilizing location. We'll then layer on, telco, MasterCard, social demo via Experian. We can layer on all of these different data sets to build out our comprehensive audience profiling, and then amplify this across every channel. Through doing so, there's an example here just of a kind of sports Lululemon audience set. So we could look to understand online behavior, so the apps you're consuming, the web behaviors, naturally your real world environment, so which specific gyms have you gone to kind of infer affluence relative to if you've been to really those high-end environments. And then just the final bit, consumer spend. So actually looking at, where am I spending my time digitally, where am I actually spending my physical time, and where am I investing my money as well, to then amplify this profiling across every channel available. A good example of this is Ford's success story. So there was a really core challenge for Ford when it came to selling EVs. The perception wasn't quite there. We instead took this on and looked at targeting millennials using social demo data. We then delved into affluence relative to MasterCard and spend data from individuals, and also their digital behavior. So do they have a Tesla app? Do they have certain digital footprints that would infer they're into an EV audience? We then activated location, spend, app, and web profiling across display, video, and CTV, so a blend of channels. All of the creative storytelling matched each other, so the larger screen CTV complemented the smaller display. Within the mobile element, we can then include maps, so actually having more of a kind of prompt for that user to go into store. So there is more outcome-led creatives, along as the bigger kind of screen branding. And in turn, the performance was really strong. So it shows how, if we're using all of these channels, we can work on, yes, brand awareness, which of course is key for upper funnel, but down towards the lower funnel, that visit into dealerships as well. An example of this slightly close to home, we have a Huawei case study, which was implemented in the airports here. The challenge was to launch the Huawei new phone, effectively to make sure we were reaching premium audiences in the GCC and those arriving from China. Through doing so with our integration with JC.co, we used all of the flight times from people coming into China. So we made sure we were only live in digital out of home in airports, along with this, or along with mobile creatives at certain times of day. The solution was then to give a really tailored delivery in relation to the different kind of times the audience sets were in the airport. And in turn, the results really reflected this. So there were 3-time cost efficiencies. Instead of just buying paper and paste out of home, we could only be live at certain times for that audience set. And naturally, the KPIs, the CTR in relation to the KPIs were really strong. People were engaging because it was that right audience set at that right time. Some broader examples of this are, this one's a UK one, so My Market from Mars. We can see how when we combine that digital out of home and display nature, it leads to intick in brand awareness, purchase intent, and ROI. A lot of the channels, like I say, there are perceptions that only one channel can work for a certain KPI. We can see here ROI on digital out of home was huge. When it came to influencing that audience set, we made sure that we were activating a digital out of home right near to stores, so we could still leverage all our footfall data, all of our conversions into store. We then were able to utilize client first-party data to validate the fact that there was a tangible lift in sales for that product set during this period as well. This example from Huggies is from the States, and it also shows that complementary channels do lead to better performance. This campaign was live. You can see in the 2 periods from July and September, there is the highest spike in CTR when it comes to CTV complementing all of the digital channels. So when you add them 2 together, it leads to a bigger halo effect in terms of brand engagement, brand performance. And finally, a little bit more of our telco integration. So we can see from different areas, when we focused on CTV, we can actually understand from an app download perspective if there has been a tangible lift. So moving away from just digital KPIs like the VTRs and the CTRs, looking at genuine, has that consumer engaged? Have they downloaded the app? What's the recency of usage? Are they now converting into being a high user of the app within a certain area? We can track all this in an attribution flow. Finally, looking at a full suite of Omni activations, so audio, digital out of home, CTV, and display. We ran a really focused campaign for DC Lottery, so naturally quite a small parameter when it comes to DC. There was a massive intake in terms of 160% increased likelihood to buy. So we had a very small audience set. We made to follow them effectively around every medium that we could during a short period of time. We made sure the frequency was at optimum pace. It was fluid throughout the weekend that we were live. 2.26 million overall views from a digital out of home perspective, and a 67% full omnichannel visit, store visit uplift. So it really shows that when you combine all of these screens together, we can get tangible outcomes. So for me, the key kind of takeaways from this session are to focus on, from an omnichannel perspective, to lead to success. We want channel-led planning that focuses on the channels from a user perspective, not just where that consumer thinks from our perception from marketeers. Looking at creative storytelling, so how all of my creatives can complement each other to ensure not only to make a mark on that consumer, but to lead them down that journey to purchase. Cohesive delivery when it comes to the unified audience, not looking at single and multi-channel, but instead omni-channel to be omnipresent. And thinking audience first, making sure that we are offering a really exciting and enjoyable experience for consumers. We don't want ads that are no less exciting than that cow in the field. We want something that is memorable and something that will drive results longer term for the brand. That is everything from me. Thank you very much. If you had any questions, let me know.